Hey, Shalom, Makim Shalom. First and foremost, as always, I want to give all praise, all honor, and all glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachakwadash. Double honors to the apostles, the bishops, and the elders of Great Millstone that taught us this truth, and that's what teaching this truth, and much peace, love, and salutation to the elect, beginning with 144,000, all the way down to the large multitude that believes, and who the Lord will deliver in these last days. To you all I say Shalom. I'm the brother Tazamah from the Great Millstone Dallas camp, coming back today with another lesson, and I pray this lesson will be edifying to the elect. And I want to do just a quick video going in on this news article that you see here from the peoplesvoice.tv. It says, Trump says Americans must trade liberty for safety. Time to approve Fisa warrantless domestic spying. Let's read that again. Trump says Americans must trade liberty for safety. All right, and the scriptures talk about when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction will come upon them, as travail upon a woman with a child. And how this devil, Esau, he uses, through his policies, he'll cause craft to prosper. As a matter of fact, let's get that, because a lot of these things that we see going on, these events that we see happening, these fake assassination attempts and things of that nature, like the whole ordeal that happened at the White House dinner that happened this past weekend, where supposedly the shooter was looking to try to take out Donald Trump. It all looked staged, and it all looked fake as hell, and the whole thing that happened before, whenever Trump so-called got shot in the ear, then the next day his ear was just fine. All these things are psychological operations. That's what Psyops is short for. It's short for psychological operations, set and made to, deceive the masses. Remember, the scripture says that we're not ignorant of Satan's devices. All right, you had one of the representatives of the White House that pretty much said that they're pretty much going to take shots at Trump. When somebody says they're taking a shot at you, meaning like they're trying to, like, somebody's getting on you. But they specifically said that. As a matter of fact, let me see if I can pull that video up. 1 second. So here's the video from the clip yesterday, and I forgot her name. It's like something Bundy, if I'm not mistaken. But listen to this. This is how you know this shit's a big ass setup. Okay, this is how you know that this shit's a big setup, man.
Will be classic.
Ready to rumble, is he not?
He is ready to rumble. I will tell you, this speech tonight will be classic Donald J. Trump. It'll be funny. It'll be entertaining. There will be some shots fired tonight in the room. There will be some shots fired tonight in the room. So everyone should tune in. It's going to be really great.
One more time.
There will be some shots fired tonight in the room. So everyone should tune in. It's going to be...
There it is. There will be some shots fired tonight in the room, and then all of a sudden, literally, some quote-unquote literal shots was being fired. And once again, they'll use these events, these psychological events, to play on the emotions and the mindset of these regular everyday sheeple, to think that he's really being targeted and things of that nature. But they'll use events like this to pass forth more wicked decrees. All right, let's get a few precepts. I know I quoted some earlier. Let's get Isaiah 10:1. All right, because Esau's at his last. He's at his last leg. And everything that he does is already being called out to be fake. And you have people dissecting the videos. As soon as they come out. The scriptures talk about how Esau, he would no longer be able to hide himself. In one major way that he was able to hide himself, via his false F's, his double F's, if you will. Okay, this is Isaiah chapter 10, verse 1. It says, woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees, and that write grievousnesses which they have prescribed. See that? So they already have particular laws that are written out, particular legislation and things of that nature that are written out. They just need the perfect events to be able to formulate. I rather say they need perfect events in order to enact these laws. that they already have written out. And these laws are not made to help better you so-called American citizens. All right, because mainly I'm really speaking directly to you Israelites, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, because these laws that are being passed, which are snares and traps, are really aimed at destroying you. You know, but in the midst of the crossfire, you know, you're gonna have, you know, Esau, he gonna be taking out his own people too. You know, so these laws that are being passed, these draconian laws and draconian measures, are being passed and set forth so that you can be spied on even more. You know, your so-called rights are being stripped away daily. You know, okay, and they're turning this into a more surveillance state, a state where they're gonna spy on you. Let's read this in the AMP. It says, "Woe, judgment is coming to those judges who issue evil statutes, and to those magistrates who constantly record unjust and oppressive decisions." You see that? They did the same thing after 9/11, 9/11, when the Patriot Act was enabled, which pretty much marked everybody in the country as a domestic terrorist. That's exactly what the Patriot Act did. You see? But they'll pass these laws and they'll have them written out, the legislation, everything already written out, but they just need the perfect event to unfold to enact the law. Okay? Let's get Psalm 94 and let's get Psalm 94 and 20. This is Psalm 94 verse 20. It says, "Shall the throne of iniquity have fellowship with thee, who frameth mischief by law?" You see, so he's framing mischief, he's framing deceit, he's framing iniquity, you know, by way of laws, statutes, and regulations that are being passed. You see, because this whole so-called terroristic shooting attempt that so-called happened, which once again, these things are set up by insiders. These are all paid actors doing these things. All right. This is going to just do nothing more than bring forth more surveillance on you, which ultimately this is going to lead down to, you know, them being able to, you know, watch, track, trace, and monitor everybody via a microchip, which is the MOTB. And yes, we sound like a broken record, but we're going to continue to sound like a broken record until it comes to pass, because that's the next major prophecy, all right, that's on the way. It's the mandatory implementation of the mark of the beast. All right, the RFID microchip being a mandated statute that it has to be embedded underneath your skin. Okay, let's get that word frameth. That word frameth in the Hebrew is yatazar. Okay, yatazar, and it says frame, devise in the mind. You see, and how do they devise it in their mind? By working evil upon their beds, man. As it says in Micah the 2nd chapter, before the morning is light, they practice it because it is in the power of their hand. You know, so they devise and they frame mischief. They devise mischief, or they devise iniquity by law. Okay, let's read it in the AMP. It says, "Can the throne of destruction be allied with you? One who frames and devises mischief by decree under the sacred name of law." You see, under the sacred name of law. And what do they use? They use their law and they use their justice. You know, which, you know, people talk about how they got the Constitution and they got their amendments, and I know my rights. And well, your rights are constantly being stripped of your so-called rights, because you don't have any rights. You know, one of the Bushes, it might have been Daddy Bush, that said that the Constitution is nothing more than a goddamn piece of paper. And that's literally all that it is. Because your so-called rights that you think that you have are being stripped away from you daily. Okay? They set up all these AR surveillance data centers in your neighborhoods, and you don't got no say-so about it. You know, everything is being tracked and traced. You know? And there's nothing, you know, these elected so-called officials, these technocrats that are set in power, you know, making decisions on your behalf. You got no say-so on it. You know, but you dumbass people are being led to the slaughter, man. A flock being led to the slaughter. All right, so once again, it says Trump says America must trade liberty or trade freedom for safety. See that? Time to approve Fisa warrantless domestic spying. President Donald Trump just dropped a bombshell on his own supporters. And these MAGAs, you know, these MAGAs are pissed. You know, these MAGAs are pissed as hell at the fact of how Donald Trump is running, how he's running the nation, man. You know, because he's running the nation like a complete madman. You know, but we've been saying through time and time again through the Spirit, man, that this is the cruel Lord. All right, this is the cruel Lord. This is Nero coming back in the reincarnation. This is him. And we believe that Donald J. Trump has been set up by Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua to bring forth complete and total chaos. Okay? It says he's ready to surrender Americans' Fourth Amendment rights so that the deep state's favorite domestic spying tool can keep rolling. Okay? Now we'll say, what is the Fourth Amendment? Right? Let's say, what is the Fourth Amendment? The Fourth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution protects individuals against unreasonable searches and seizures by the government. So pretty much the government just can't just roll up in your stuff according to the Fourth Amendment, which once again, all this is going to be done away with anyway. But according to the Fourth Amendment, they just can't roll up, you know, in your stuff and just seize what you got. Right? It says it requires warrants to be supported by probable cause, specifically describing the places to be searched and persons or things to be seized, right? Ensuring privacy for persons, houses, papers, and effects. You see, so like, for example, somebody, somebody may get pulled over by the cops or whatever the case may be, you know, and if they don't have probable cause, you know, if they don't have any kind of probable cause, they just can't search your vehicle. Or they just can't search a person like that if they don't got probable cause. You know, that's why people invoke their Fourth Amendment right. You know, to deny unreasonable search and seizure. You know, but here very soon, all that's gonna be out the window any damn way. Especially when they institute martial law. Let's see somebody try to say I know my rights when martial law hit. Let's see that happen. Okay. Let's go back. It says in a blunt truth social post, Trump demanded Congress immediately reauthorize Section 702 of Fisa. If I'm saying that correctly, it's either Fisa or Fisa, but tomato, one of them two. It says the warrantless surveillance program that vacuums up Americans' emails, text, and calls without a judge's approval, because the military really needs it. He said he's doing this in the guise of the military, because we're really living we're really, you know, segueing into, which has already been this way, but it's being more openly shown. We're segueing into a police state where everything is going to be tracked and everything is going to be surveilled. You see, and now you recently had a woman, you know, that was at a college university that got sentenced to 15 years. All right, for speaking in a WhatsApp chat about Bibi Netanyahu. 15 years. So what do you think that's gonna do whenever they which they already, you know, have access to our text messages and all of our messages and emails and all that. They already have access to all that kind of stuff. You know, WhatsApp is owned and operated by Facebook, Meta. And who owns and operates Facebook? Mark Zuckerberg. Which Mark Zuckerberg is a technocrat, all right, that's in Trump. He's in Trump's cabinet. So all these things are already, you know, they're already being done, but now they're really going to back it by having the law. Pretty much this is going to give them their justification by law. You know, that's why the scripture says, through his policy, he's going to cause craft to prosper. All right. This is Daniel chapter 8. Damn, it's verse 25, I think it is. Yeah. Daniel chapter 8, verse 25, it says, and through his policy also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand. Now, to qualify, this is beginning with Antiochus Epiphanes, all right, which came out of the Seleucid Empire during the during the Greek Empire, but Esau is coming in he's coming in that Greco-Roman ideology, in that Greco-Roman way. So he's going to cause, through his policy, right? And that word policy also goes back to, why I say police goes back to policy. You see, policy is prudent, insight, understanding, prudence in a good sense, but it says cunning or craft in a bad sense. So through his policy, right, he's going to cause craft to prosper. He had two horns like a lamb, but he spake as a dragon. It says, and he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many. He shall also stand up against the prince of princes, but he shall be broken without hand. But the main point is that it's through his policy he's going to cause his craft to prosper, his influence, which is going to funnel everybody into this, this beast system, which he's going to cause people, he's going to cause all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark. Okay. It says, even worse, he openly admits the program was weaponized against him by bad people during the Russia hoax, yet declared he is personally willing to risk the giving up of my rights and privileges as a citizen for our great military and country. So here it is. And this man's a goddamn hypocrite, man. See? It was weaponized against him, but he's going to use it on the American people. So are you weaponizing it? Are you weaponizing it against your own people? Which, when I say your own people, you know what I'm talking about. He doubled down. I am willing to give up my security for the military. All right, let's take a listen.
Surveillance tool that expires this coming week. It obviously allows the FBI to surveil potential terrorists who are overseas, and we don't know right now if this individual was radicalized by somebody like that. But do you think about the importance of having these tools to protect our country from these kinds of threats, and how will you get that message to Congress when there's a Congress right now that's skeptical about renewing those powers?
Well, Jackie, I know both sides of it because Fisa was used against me, and very, very viciously by a dirty cop. We had the Comey gang, Comey and his remnants, and it was used against me, and they used it very illegally. I mean, they signed court orders that were illegal. Every one of those people should be prosecuted, frankly. It was used against me. Now, that's the bad news. The good news is that the military really needs it, and it's really needed for national.
And that military you said the military really needs it. It's talking about Palantir. You see, this is where Palantir is going to come into effect big time when it comes down to policing the average everyday citizen. See, his Esau's sword is being sharpened. You see, because there's going to be great civil unrest is getting ready to take place here in these streets. Especially with everything getting more expensive, energy getting more expensive. People are getting ready to lose it.
National security, and there's a division, but I was willing to give that up because, again, it was used against me more than anybody else, and by bad people, by sick people also. These are sick people. Comey was terrible. He was a horrible, sick person. He had real problems. And I use the word to describe him. He was a dirty cop. It's an old-fashioned term, but he was a dirty cop, bad guy. And there were other bad guys, and they used Pfizer illegally. They used it for a purpose it wasn't supposed to be used for. Okay. On the other side, you have the military. They really need it. General Raisin Cain. Look at the success we had in Venezuela. Look at the success we're having with Iran.
So if you can see clearly, if you read in between the lines of what he's saying, FISA is going to be weaponized. They're going to weaponize FISA against the average everyday citizen, with it being backed by the military. He's literally telling you what's getting ready to happen. You see? Man, it's like right before your face. Let's see. Go down here. The program was sold as a foreign terrorist tracker. It says in practice, it's a backdoor dragnet on American citizens. You see a backdoor dragnet on American citizens, abused repeatedly by the FBI and intelligence agencies. Trump once raged kill Fisa when it targeted him. Now he's demanding its renewal with no reforms, no warrants, and no protections for everyday Americans. See that? So you're gonna have people that are, these maggots, these Trumpers, these red-blooded, red-wing Americans, that are here it is, your president that you swore up and down is going to make America great again is getting ready to lock your ass up on a larger scale. Now I'm gonna play this real quick too. This is from Midas Touch. Let's listen to this real quick. Fair use, by the way.
Well, here, play this clip.
And we looked at all of the conditions that took place tonight, and I will say, it's not a particularly secure building. And I didn't want to say this, but this is why we have to have all of the attributes of what we're planning at the White House. It's actually a larger room, and it's much more secure. It's drone-proof, it's bulletproof glass. We need the ballroom. That's why Secret Service, that's why the military are demanding it. They've wanted the ballroom for 150 years for lots of different reasons, but today's a little bit different because today we need levels of security that probably nobody's ever seen before.
And then
see that they're using these events to bring forth more security, quote unquote security, when they shall say peace and safety. We need more security. We need to make things more secure. Now they want to reinvoke the Fisa, which they will pass it. I believe they will pass it. And the things that you text and the messages, your text messages, all these things can be used against you. And it's going to be backed by law. Okay? Hey, man, so we coming into some very, very interesting times, man, in the spirit, man. So, I pray this lesson was edifying to the elect. Once again, I want to give all praise, all honor, and all glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem HaKadosh. Double honors to the apostles, the bishops, and the elders, great millstone that taught us his truth and also teaching his truth. Much peace, love, and salutation to the elect. Until next time, I say shalom.